You know, Arsenal and Ash, knee. I don't know if JDCL's won an Evo, but anyway, these guys when they won these Evos, they're prestigious titles. Arsenal and Ash next year could potentially have 17 Evo titles. What's up, YouTube? Aussie back with another one, and wow, Evo just announced its expansion pack. It's a lot to dissect here. What I want to talk about in this video is what does this mean to the FGC? Is this diluting? Is this too many events? Is this great for people who can't afford to go to these events? But anyway, look, let's dissect. Let's get into it. They just announced more locations, right? So we already knew about Singapore, but Morocco, Africa, Brazil, South America, China, right? The Middle East and Mexico. Viva la Mexico. Wow, this is it's like it's good and it's bad, right? So look, let's talk about the pros. The pros is people who can't afford to go Las Vegas. Guys, Vegas is expensive. I've been to Vegas. I didn't go for Evo. I just went for a holiday. I was in California, so I thought, let me hit up Vegas. And it's expensive. It's really expensive. And if you're not a pro player and who's not sponsored, you're easily spending 15 in this climate. If you're going from England, tickets maybe £500, 4 or 5 days. You're looking at hotel costs. That's a grand there. Spending money. The tickets. Evo France. I looked it up. I thought, you know what? Let me see how much it is. Just to go to France. I'm not. I'm like maybe 40, 40 minutes, an hour away from going to France. You're looking at like £400-500. That's a lot of money. But anyway, I think the good thing about this is people who can't afford to go to these events can go to these events now, right? If you live in China, hey man, that's awesome. Nothing to do with Pakistan, India. I noticed something. Nothing to do with Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. That's got nothing to do here, right? They're very specific where they've picked. So they've picked Middle East, right? Singapore, they want to cover Asia, but what about Japan? That falls into Asia, you know? Singapore, Japan, that falls into Asia. So that was a bit of a weird one for me anyway. So guys, what was actually announced here is 2026 to 2030 roadmap, more global Evo events, support for locals, which is good, but I don't know how much support they're gonna get. And it's gonna be a championship series. If you go on the website, it says increased prize pool. How much more? That's what a lot of pros would complain about. That Evo gives you that name, that recognition, but the prize pool weren't that great, right? So these guys put in hours and hours, literally because of the money, right? So if we look at the pros, more opportunities for players worldwide, right? More regional access, bigger prize pools, stability, you're looking at long term commitment for the FGC, which is good. I think, isn't that what the FGC wanted? Because there was a point where it was dying. When I was around, it wasn't that great. But isn't this what people wanted? And be careful what you wish for. Now, interesting. The responses, right? Once a year when Evo was happening, man, it was special. I tuned in. I genuinely tuned in. Then when it became Evo Japan, I thought that was a good move because Japan, I don't know if he's got the highest IQ in the world, but you're facing some of the smartest Tekken players in the world, right? You do it there, it makes sense. Tekken comes from there. All the developers are Japanese. The games are Japanese. Pretty much everything technical in my house is Japanese. My PlayStation, my TV. So that made sense. Then I thought, okay, Evo, they done one in Europe. I said, oh, I didn't agree with that. I thought, oh, it's too much now. It's getting too much. Now, Evo was like the Super Bowl of fighting games, right? Even though it happens every year, it's not as special as a World Cup. World Cup happens every 4 years. The whole world is watching. But for us FGC nerds, We love Evo, you know? CEO is more entertainment, but the serious thing is Evo. You make it there, you made it everywhere. Now, if it becomes multiple events per year, regional circuits, 10 events for year, like that's nearly a event a month, 1.5 months. Am I going to tune in to all these events? No. That's the truth. That's the harsh reality. I'm not. I'm going to see highlights and that's it. So it's it loses its magic, right? So it's getting diluted, right? And that's the truth. When you have too much of something, just like Tekken 8, too many moves, it's diluted. You lose the magic. You get lost in the translation of what evolution is. And is that what it's really doing? It's evolving, or is it, a lot of people are saying, sports washing because it's been acquired by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Now we're going to talk about that, right? So we're going to talk about the commodification argument, yeah? So frequent, when something is frequent, and is backed heavily by financial, backing, there's a message behind that. I necessarily don't think the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia give a flying shit about us nerds playing Tekken or Street Fighter. I have to be honest with you guys. The guys at the top, they're not doing that, bro. Like, we know what happens in Dubai, why women go to Dubai. We know Wagwan. These guys have, when you've got so much money, they hit a certain threshold, they've done everything. It's just boring to them. They're like, yes, Habibi, let's go buy this. This is the same thing they're doing with boxing. The same thing happened to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn thought, yeah, he's the man. Turkey Al Sheikh came in, took over his whole thing and let him know who's boss. Took his best asset, his moneymaker, right? Conor Ben, took him away. Zuffa Boxing, look this up. Anyway, it, it I, people were getting angry when Sony bought. I think it was a good thing when Sony bought Evo. You know, so I thought that was a good thing when Sony bought Evo. Makes sense, right? Okay, Smash went out. It had to get funded because sooner or later Sony were gonna get into that. But anyway, let's look at the let's look at the responses. Okay, guys, the responses have been mixed, right? Someone's like, you got to branch out. Fighting game players across the world are happy, which is true. If you live in Morocco, I personally think they should have done it in like Ghana or Nigeria or Egypt, but Saudis don't like Egyptians. Egypt would have been cool. Go see the pyramids, or someone like Ghana or Nigeria, give people a real opportunity for growth. Um, I've been Morocco. I wouldn't go Morocco again. I didn't think it was for me, right? Anyway, but Morocco is beautiful. There's places in Morocco that are really stunning. I would avoid Marrakesh. If they do this in Marrakesh, I definitely wouldn't go. Anyway, uh, someone wrote here, I always wanted to go Evo, but the desire in recent years, I have zero absolute desire to step foot in these events. This many Evos will absolutely dilute the brand too. Two was fine. Three felt a bit much. This is more, and this is more aligning with me. But 9 to 10, such a shame what happened to it, right? So this guy here, Tommy Delodo, I don't know how you say your name, man. Please do not accept money from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia esports washing campaign for your local video game tournament. Now, this is a very interesting topic because wherever the money comes from is going to be corrupt. I don't want to get into who runs Hollywood. You know, that's washing in a way. Who runs the media? For years, we've been washed by the media. You know who runs the media. So you damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You want to go like these pro players, they play for hours and hours and hours, man. They literally sacrifice their life and they're going to get more money, right? So, yes, the practices of Saudi Arabia are questionable because people with my skin color are slaves out there. You go to Dubai, who built Dubai? Slaves. Lack of education in Pakistan, overpopulation in India, Same with Afghanistan. These guys go out there and they're promised, you know, a certain life, and it's not. They work like slaves, but no one talks about that. No one really talks about that. So maybe, Tommy has a point. I have to admit, he does have a point here, but it's happening all over the world, you know. So, where are you going to stand with this? This is the question. Where are you going to stand with this? There's nothing you can do. They're in boxing. They run boxing. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia run boxing. Part of me can say, you know what? Oh, this is wrong. What their practices are, how human rights, all of these things, right? LGBT, all of that. You could go into all that. Then the other part of me was like, Turkey Al Sheikh's putting on the best fights, you know. And then the same argument's gonna be here. The players are gonna have more incentive to play because the money is gonna be much higher, more opportunities, more sponsors, right? But this is not gonna go away. I'll say to Tommy, what are you doing to what cause are you doing? What are you doing to what awareness are you posting? Are you posting about what's going on there? Are you? You know? Or are you quick to just, call it out because it's not people of your color? We gotta talk about this. There's so many different dynamics you can come from, you know. I haven't been to Saudi Arabia, but I've been to Dubai and I've seen how it is. And I'll never go back there with what's going on and with the political alignments. That's not who I am, and I'm not someone who gives a shit about money. I never cared about money. If I spent 30 to 40 grand putting on events and I didn't get no support. I just wanted support, right? I would have continued to do events. So if you know my history, where I'm coming from now, I was a small time event organizer compared to Evo. How does this affect you? It affects you in a way where you have to look at these events and work your event around them, which is horrible. It's not a nice feeling, right? What help are they going to give you? That's another thing. What help are they going to give you? So, look, where do I stand with this? If I'm in one of those countries, would I attend the Evo? It's going to be crazy prices, like £400, £500. No, I wouldn't. I'd rather watch it peacefully, watch the highlights, And the prices they're charging are crazy. And when you read the description, it says community, yeah? Arabs don't give a fuck about the community, man. Well, I have to be very specific. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia don't give a shit about the community. So, uh, this is a very interesting video, guys. So now, what's gonna happen with Evo? I'll tell you what's gonna happen with Evo now. Las Vegas is not gonna have the numbers that it did have before, because those same players could be like, I can just go here and win the same money, with spending half the money. Why do I need to spend an arm and a leg to go there? So it loses its nuance, It loses its credibility. Evo was, in my opinion, once a phenomenal tournament. Arsenal and Ash, knee. I don't know if JDCL's won an Evo, but anyway, these guys when they won these Evos, they're prestigious titles. Arsenal and Ash next year could potentially have 17 Evo titles. Potentially, he could. Not everyone's going to fly to all these countries, but the sponsor players will. And the competition ain't going to be as strong, right? I think Japan has the strongest competition, in my opinion. I think America has the most explosive style, but Japan, that technical style. You overcome that, you're a master. But anyway, sorry, I'm watching the cricket at the same time. Them ones, Pakistan probably going to lose. But it that having that Evo title is not going to mean as much. It's the same with boxing, guys. I have to be honest. In boxing, there's so many belts: WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO. It's the same. You know, it's the same thing. There should be one linear champion, and there should be one linear champion in the fighting game community. That's how I see it. If Arslan wins three Evos and then Nee wins three Evos, who's the better player of that year? Or he wins four. It's yeah. Look, end of the day, it's all about money, guys. Money talks, bullshit walks. That's the truth. So, in my opinion, when you increase frequency, you lose the quality, you know? And I'm all about quality over quantity, man. You know, when people talk about Lions Den, they remember that shit. They're like, till this day, sometimes I see in chats, people are like, oh, Lions Den, this and that, you know? But I thought the FGC was going to die. Where do I stand on that? I couldn't give a shit, I'll be honest. I think more events is good, man. There's people in Morocco can't afford to go Vegas. You ain't spending 3, 4 grand to go Vegas. That's crazy. So China, I think that'd be the most interesting because I want to see the talent in China. That would be very interesting. But what about the business practices in China? You block the dude. Remember Tekken? Tekken World Tour blocked that kid because he was Chinese. But they've got Bruce Lee, they've got Lei Wulong, and they benefited off these characters. But interesting. I'll tell you what I didn't like is Harada deleted the tweet where he said he would never put a Ip Man character in the game because of what Ip Man does to the Japanese and how he depicts the Japanese, right? And then with peer pressure, they put that character on a Jamaican guy. And I was speaking to a few of my Chinese mates, and they were like, "That's mad disrespectful." But we could talk about cultural appropriation. So many things, guys. Honestly, how would people feel if Boys in the Hood was by Jackie Chan, starring Jackie Chan? Like, look, people don't talk about this. People get offended, but this is the truth. You know, there's not even a brown man in Tekken, yet the champion is a brown man. So many things to talk about. Hey guys, if you like the video, give it a like, and if you wanna carry on with my story, hit that sub button, man. What you doing?